Okay, here is my slide. I hope it was kind of a long reading, so I hope that I was able to actually get everything that we needed to know, but I think I did a okay general overview. So my reading was, or my question was, what are the weaknesses of traditional grading and what would a competency-based grading program actually look like? So we'll start with the traditional grading weaknesses. Traditional grading is what we use today, like the letter number scale, like A through F. And there was a quote that I really liked: the A through F grading scheme is undermining the very core purpose of our education system, learning. So I included that up here on this slide. And just a basic overview of the major weakness is that it, like we said, it's just undermining the learning behind it. Students are either just doing assignments and just doing the work for the grade, or they aren't doing the work and they aren't putting forth an effort or aren't actually learning, and they are still getting like a C or a D and still getting credit for something that they haven't actually learned. So the reasons that the rating gave more specifically are: first, it's not a reliable indicator of achievement; second, it allows students to advance without fully mastering skills; and finally, it is a limited tool for motivating students. So although sometimes grades can be a motivation for some students, like getting an A is really important to some students, so they're motivated to do the work. Other students, they don't really care if they get a D as long as they get credit, so they won't actually master the skills. So there are some of the weaknesses. Oops. And then just a couple more weaknesses that I talked about that I'll just go over super brief. What is a passing grade? So some schools like it, it's just A, B, C, and F. Some it's A, B, C, D, F, and most schools there isn't an E, except for I think at BYU you can get an E. Anyways, so like some grades, a passing grade is a D, some it's a C, some it's an E, and that's not the same over all of the schools. What does each grade mean? So some schools, an A is a 90 to 100, some it's a 95 to 100, some it's a 96 to 100. So it just depends on your teacher and your school. How can students earn points? Some teachers just give, everything has, a specific set amount of points, or every assignment is worth 5% of your grade, or tests are more heavily weighted, or there's bell curves, things like that. And then what does a grade point average actually mean? So this is, this talks a little bit about how like some more advanced courses are weighted more heavily and they can have the GPA rise above 4.0. So it's just not super reliable, and it's not super just equal across all the bases, depending on where you went to school. So now on to competency-based grading and what that actually looks like. So I put the 6 elements of competency-based grading up here on this slide. And they are: 1, to embrace explicit learning progression or standards so that everyone will have a shared vision of what students should learn. 2, develop a clear understanding of levels of knowledge so that students and teachers share an understanding of what proficiency means. 3, ensure transparency so that educators, students, and parents all understand where students are on their learning progression. Create a school-wide or district-wide standards-based grading policy. Offer timely feedback and meaningful reassessment so that students can continue to progress and stay on track. Provide adequate information, infrastructure to support students and teachers, and school-wide continuous improvement. So I'll go over what those mean a little bit more in depth down here. So embrace explicit learning progression or standards so everyone will have a shared vision of what the students should learn. This is just making sure your students understand what's expected of them in their assignments, or what they're expected to master by the end of your course. Number 2, develop a clear understanding of levels of knowledge. So this is more saying like this is the basis on what we will decide, on how we will decide if you are proficient in what we're teaching in this class. So a lot of, like, some schools use Bloom's taxonomy, some use Webb's depth of knowledge, some use different ones that I never heard of. Here's kind of an example. So they used a scale between 0 to 4, 4 being the learner knows all the simple knowledge and skills, all of the complex knowledge and skills, and goes beyond what is taught in the class to apply. 0 being even with help, the learner does not know any of the simple or complex knowledge or skills. So it's just kind of making sure that your students understand what that scale is and what that means in your classroom. Let's see next. Ensure transparency so that educators, students, and parents all understand where students. So this is like making sure that your students understand where they started, where they are in their progression, where they're going next, and how they'll get there. You're making sure that the students are on the same page as you as the teacher, and their parents are understanding as well. So just making sure that they understand how they're doing in their coursework, where they are on that spectrum of proficiency or not being proficient, making sure that they know how to keep improving. Create a school-wide or district-wide standards. So this is making sure everyone in your school is using the same standards policy as well as everyone in the district. The commitment to all standards means that there is commitment on behalf of the school to help all students become proficient in the standards, not some or a few, but all. Developing a school-wide grading philosophy that guides individual teacher grading practices provides a quality control measure in the grading process whereby staff, students, and all parents share the same understanding for the process and products of grading. Offer timely feedback and meaningful reassessment so students can continue to progress and stay on track. So I like this quote, you simply can't give credit for less than minimum level of proficiency. There's no reason to report it other than not yet proficient. So this is just making sure that you are giving feedback to your students, helping them to know how they can progress, as well as giving meaningful reassessments, not just testing them once and deciding, okay, that's where you're at, but giving multiple assessments and reassessments so that they can know if they've improved, if they haven't improved, and where they're standing. Here's another quote about that. A number of policies and practices in competency-based grading are rooted in this mindset, including the ideas that 1, students should never be penalized for mistakes that take place during the learning cycle, 2, practice is never graded, and 3, it is acceptable and even expected that students may reach proficiency the first time through a cycle of learning. So just a couple things to keep in mind as you're implementing this in your classroom. 6, provide adequate information infrastructure to support students, teachers, and school-wide continuous improvement. So this is just making sure you're providing the infrastructure, the resources to make sure to implement all of these different elements in your classroom. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.